If you are a quilter or you love someone who is, you more than likely have more quilts than beds in your home. And if you're anything like me, each quilt has a story, a purpose, and a reason that it deserves to be treated well. Maybe you're gifting one, maybe you're shipping one, maybe you're trying to store a growing collection without damaging all that hard work. And sometimes you just have that one special one that needs a little extra care. The truth is, how you fold a quilt matters more than most people think. Today, we're going to walk through how to fold a quilt properly for every situation, so that they stay beautiful for years or even generations. So stick with me, and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. If you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. Before we start, just a couple of tips. Before you fold a quilt, you want to wash your hands. On top of the oil from our skin or the hand creams we put on, dust and dirt comes in a variety of forms, and we can easily lose track of it. And you can fold your quilt on a table, on your bed, or on the floor. Just be sure that the surface is free of crumbs and dust before you start.
And lastly,
keep a snipper and a lint brush nearby, because no matter if it's a brand new quilt or an old loved one, chances are there's threads to trim and brush off. Let's start with one of the main reasons we fold quilts, and that is to give them away. Because if you're making quilts, more than likely you're gifting quilts. When you gift a quilt, the folding becomes part of the experience. You're not just protecting it, you are presenting it. The quilt should be folded with the good side folded inward, and the label should be visible on top, so that's the first thing they see. That way, the label and the beginning of this quilt story has maximum impact. The quarter fold method is a simple and reliable method, especially for smaller quilts. You begin by laying the quilt flat with the good side up, then folding in half along its longest edge, aligning the binding on the side, and the quilt label is on the bottom. You often want to run your hand inside along the fold just to be sure that all the fabric is lying flat. Then you can fold it in half again, and this time the label is on top. Now, another method is the tri-fold method. That is where you fold it in three, you fold one side over, and then the other side over. Again, the label ends up on top. These two methods are best for smaller quilts and temporary storage. Now, we need to fold the quilt again this way, and you can choose either method to do it. Doesn't matter which you did first. And of course, the label is on top. It's whatever gives you the best results. Now, if you have yet to make a label, check out this video here. A label gives context to the gift, a date, a sentiment, and the name of the maker. And that's all valuable, even if you are a beginner.
and when they unwrap it, they can just grab the top corners and there's a wonderful quilt reveal.
Now, if you have a bigger quilt, you might find this method easier. It's called a pocket fold. You want to make sure that everything's nice and flat, and then you roll it over, and you make sure this pocket is nice and flat, then roll it again, and then roll this one up. And we have our label on top. And you want to make sure it's nice and flat, and nothing is caught. And now you can choose to do any one of those three methods. You can do it in half. Again, you want to make sure the thing's nice and flat, or we could do it in a pocket fold again. Now, if you don't have enough on the last fold, just start again. And this time just make your first fold just a little bit smaller. There. And our label is on top. And most lovely, it also has its own quilt reveal. So sometimes the challenge isn't presentation, it's fit. You might be trying to get your quilt into a box, or onto a shelf, or into a suitcase, and suddenly your regular folding method doesn't work.
If we are using a box, it's pretty easy by taping around the base. So when we fold our quilt, it can't be larger than this rectangle.
So you just fold inside the lines and this way, then this way. Now you see I don't have enough fold here, so I'm going to do that one again, just starting with less. So I'm just going to fold like this, and like that. That fits inside my square, and it fits in the box perfectly. Now with a bigger quilt like this one, that trifold method is not going to work very well because we have just a little bit too much.
So try this method instead. Lie your quilt flat over your taped square. First measure the left fold. It should lie over most of the square. Then align that left fold with the inside of the tape. Then lay the quilt flat again. Then on the right side, start with a small fold. Then make another fold so that both edges of the right side lie inside the taped square. Then make your left fold. You should see the inside edges of the tape. If you don't see them, try again.
And now I'm just going to come up. Again, give yourself some space for the fold. Labels on top, and that fits in there too. And they're done. So with larger quilts, the pocket method comes back into play, but with a little bit more intention.
When you make your folds, they need to start at 1/2 inch to 1 inch inside the tape, as the bulk in the folds will add up and get thicker.
Can we get this into the box? Perfect. Normally when I'm shipping a quilt, I will also wrap it in a plastic bag. Now let's talk about folding for display, which is a completely different mindset. Instead of hiding and protecting your quilt top, you are showcasing it. That means the way that the quilt is folded should highlight the design, not obscure it. So think about what you want to show. Is there a strong central motif, or a symmetrical layout, or a really special fussy cut block? It's worth taking a little extra time to be sure that it's visible.
First, decide on how much of your quilt you want to show. I'm wanting to show this whole big block. And this block has a directional element, so I want to make sure that it's pointing the right way. So first, we're going to flip the quilt over, and then we're going to do a pocket fold from one side to the edge of the block. And we're going to adjust that pocket to be as wide as we can possibly make it. Then we're going to make a pocket fold from the other side and fold it over top. It's always nice to get it right the first time, but sometimes it takes you a second try. Now sometimes it's not a particular block, but a symmetrical element in the quilt. And we follow very similar steps. We're still going to make a pocket fold on one side to the edge of the block column we're going to showcase. With larger quilts like this, you may have to fuss with the pocket to make it as wide as possible. Then we make a pocket fold from the other side, and notice that we're leaving a gap because this fold has to lie on top of the other fold. And ta-da! It works again. Now you may have size considerations, like this might be going on a shelf or on a rung of a ladder. So we will follow steps very similar to the steps in part 2. After defining our size with masking tape, we place the center motif in the middle of the square. We fold one side to the inside edge of the tape, and then we fold the other side to the inside edge of the tape. Then, making sure that our motif is still in the center, we fold up from the bottom and then fold back from the top.
In the previous examples, our folding was temporary, as gifts get open and quilts get used. But for many of you, you have too many to use at once. These need another type of folding. So let's review what good storage for textiles is. It needs to be dry, so no basements. It needs to be out of direct sunlight, as UV lights can destroy the fibers and the dye. It needs to be away from heat, so no attics, heat vents, and radiators. And it needs to be away from critters, but that said, don't use mothballs, as they will also damage fabric over time. And no direct contact with wood, because that can also stain fabric. And lastly, no sealed plastic containers, as quilts need to breathe. When it comes to storing quilts, long-term damage can appear where the fabric is creased. So if you have the space, storing quilts flat on a spare bed is the best option. Stack as many as you need to and cover them with a sheet to protect them from dust and sunlight. Rolling is another alternative. Using a large acid-free tube, like the core of a batting roll, or taping a couple of smaller ones together, you can roll up the quilt gently and evenly, keeping creases to a minimum.
Use fabric scraps as ties, and of course, make sure you have the label on top. Now, some of you will wonder whether you can use a pool noodle. This is fine for temporary storage, but for anything long-term, you want to cover it with a piece of plain cloth.
Of course, for some of us, folding is unavoidable. So when you fold quilts for storage, be mindful. Smooth the fabric as you go. Avoid sharp creases by running your hand along inside the fold. And most importantly, refold your quilt every 6 to 12 months along different fold lines. This prevents long-term stress in the same part of the quilt. Now, another method of folding that you might have heard of is along the diagonal, which shifts the stress to the bias of the quilt. If your blocks are square, it's easiest to do this on a 45-degree angle, as you can align your flip corner with the corners of your blocks. Just proceed with a pocket fold, tuck your opposite corner in, then repeat along the other axis. Now, this is not a better method than the other ones I showed you, but it adds variety and puts the stress in a different part of the quilt, which is exactly what we want in long-term storage. And once your quilts are folded, store them in something breathable, like a pillowcase, or in this storage container by Madame So. Finally, there are quilts that you may have that require an extra level of care. They can have deep personal or historical value. You will need archival boxes and acid-free tissue paper. You can buy them on Amazon, but they're not cheap. For this quilt, it's also a good idea to use white gloves while you're touching the quilt. Lay your quilt out flat, good side up. Take a length of the acid-free tissue paper, the length of your quilt. Twist it, place it at the first fold, then fold your quilt over it, using the pocket fold method. Then take another length of tissue paper and twist it, place it at the next fold, and fold over the quilt. Then continue to fold as necessary. Take another length of tissue paper, but this time the width of your fold, and twist it. Then place it at the first fold. Fold over your quilt and repeat with another piece of tissue. Then fold over the quilt and continue as needed. The tissue paper is there to help avoid creases and make a nice roll. So your quilt bundle will probably be twice the size, at least, than it normally is. Then the quilt is placed in an archival box lined with more tissue paper, ensuring that it's fully supported and protected from environmental factors. Handling these quilts with clean hands or even cotton gloves helps prevent oils or dirt from transferring onto the fabric. It's also worth taking the time to record the history of this quilt. So grab an envelope and put in notes or photos, possibly of the making of the quilt or the using of the quilt, or just simply the maker of the quilt. This adds context and meaning that future generations will appreciate. No matter why you're folding your quilt, whether it's for gifting, storage, display, or preservation, the goal is always the same. You want to respect the work, protect the fabric, and preserve the story that the quilt carries. And one last thing, because it matters. Every quilt deserves a label. It doesn't matter if this is your first quilt or this is your 50th. It doesn't matter if the quilt was made years ago or it was made by someone else. There's no time limit on telling its story. Take care, and I'll see you next time.